Well, welcome back to Simple Truth, where we pull out some truths from the story of David. Is where we are right now. We're in 1 Samuel. We're in chapter 24. We're finishing up the chapter. We've been talking about this interaction between Saul and David, where David had a chance to kill him, and he didn't, right? We talked about this whole idea of spiritual confusion and a reprieve from spiritual confusion that Saul got for a second, got a glimpse of reality. And then we talked about this concept of being a better man, recognizing and responding to Jesus, right, in people, right? And then the third part of this is, I know, right? We talked about that at the end last week. We talked about this idea of, I know, right, that God has said you're going to be the next king, right? There are declarations that we know, right? We know sometimes at work when somebody is going to replace us, when it's time to go, right? We know when we're going to get in trouble sometimes. We know certain things. I know that you're supposed to have this job. I know that you're supposed to move away, and I don't want you to. I know that you're going to do this. I know you're going to do this. Sometimes God tells us within us, like, I know these things. The problem with Saul, and where we find the spiritual confusion coming into his life, is he absolutely, positively refused to believe it. Right? He just refused to accept it. Oh, he knew that David was going to be the next king, but he refused to accept it. How do we know that? Because what's his response to David? Hey, only do this for me. Don't wipe me off the face of the earth. Right? Don't destroy my family. Ruin my father's name, right? Don't destroy all of this because I was king and you're the next king. Right? This sounds like kind of extreme, except for what we see in the Bible that has happened, right? Kings would destroy all of the former king's family. Why? Because they're a threat to the current king. So what was Saul's focus? Was, I know you're supposed to be the king. I don't want you to be the next king because you're going to destroy my family, what I've built, me. That gets in the way a whole bunch, doesn't it? Whole bunch. Does it get in the way of, I know what I need to do. I know what God is doing. I recognize, I'll even declare what God's doing, but I don't want it. I don't want it to happen. This is where the battle happens within each of our lives all the time. God, I know you're calling me to this. God, I know you're calling me away from this. God, I know you've declared this. I don't want it. Sometimes not because we don't want it, because we don't want to accept it because of the cost that it's going to have. We don't want to accept it because of what it's going to do to those around us. We don't want to accept it because we don't understand it. This is a really tough thing. You understand that in this story, you have one king saying to the next king, I recognize you're going to be the next king, and it's not my family, it's not my son. You have two anointed at one time kings in the exact same moment, living together. This isn't, hey, the king's on the deathbed and he's announcing this. This king's alive and well. And he's announcing that I know you're going to be the next king. And the problem was where Saul should have been helping, should have been developing David, should have been trying everything he could to help David be the best king that he could be. Nope, jealousy set up this spirit of confusion that kept Saul from doing what he knew he should have done to doing what he shouldn't have done. See, if Saul was as eager to kill people as he was David at the beginning, he wouldn't have lost his kingship. But he wasn't eager. He was willing to set aside things, right, to not do it God's way. And that leads you to an uncontrollable hatred. You see, when the enemy sends a spirit of confusion, sometimes it leads to uncontrollable things. We just got this dislike, this hatred for somebody. We don't know why. Well, yeah, you do. Because the enemy hates, and the enemy hates the things of God. And so he will create within us, not a clean heart, not a pure heart, but a hateful heart, where we hate the things that we're looking at, the things that we're seeing. So we could talk about this point forever and ever. I'm probably going to spend a little bit of time talking about this in the next few hours, right? But sometimes we just know. You have a choice in those moments. You can either be used by God to further God's plan, God's purpose, help the anointed of God, or you can fight against it because you don't want it, you don't understand it, you don't like it, right? For a whole bunch of reasons. And then when that happens, a spirit of confusion is going to come in. Man, it's going to mess with your thinking. It's going to mess with your head. It's going to cause some real big problems because you simply won't be obedient to what you know. So, that's the good news. Actually, the good news is God can come in and he just clears that all up just like he did for Saul. In one moment, a reprieve from the confusion, reprieve from the jealousy, reprieve from the anger, reprieve from everything. But you can't just stay in that moment. God clears the vision to say like, hey, you got to make a choice here. Right? Lukewarmness is not where we want to be. But sometimes God gives us a reprieve for a moment so that we can see things clearly, where we've been, where we're living, where we could be, where we're going. And then we got to respond to it. Saul responded in this moment rightly, like, hey, all right, you're the godly one, I'm going to move on. So chew on all of that, and we'll see you next time right here on A Simple Truth.